Alright, what we have here is a black granite composite sink that looks to have a buildup of some sort around the edges here. Consulting with Tom at SupremeSurfaceCleaners.com, he's assured me that this is not a mineral deposit, simply because when you wet the surface, it makes it look good again. So if it was a mineral buildup, that wouldn't happen. So more than likely, this is more what they term as damage to the sink, with maybe some soap scum buildup, and there's probably some oil residue that's left in here from times that we've tried to clean it from the past. And Tom at Supreme Surface Cleaners was gracious enough to provide some product to go ahead and improve the look of the sink. And so we're going to film that process now to kind of show you how you do it, and show you how well it works. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use this Supreme Surface Scum and Mineral Deposit Remover. You can get this on their website. And you want to make sure that the sink is right. Rinse it out, get all the debris or anything that might be in your sink, and then make sure it's dry. So I basically dry this thing out. You want to apply it all the way around. Kind of start from the top and let it run down. And then once you've kind of saturated the whole surface of the sink, you're going to let that sit for 10 or 15 minutes. And we're going to come back and we're going to reapply during that time to make sure that this deposit remover doesn't dry on the surface. The areas start to look like they're starting to kind of start to dry a little bit. So we're just going to add a little bit more just to make sure we're keeping those areas moistened. Alright, so far it's been about 7 minutes. And you can see probably down in here where some of the areas are starting to look a little dry. So we're just going to add a little more spritz of the Scum and Mineral Deposit Remover, just to make sure we're keeping it moist. And again, we're about 7, closer to 8 minutes into the 15 minutes. Okay, we're about 10 minutes in now. It doesn't look like any of those dry spots are coming. Well, there's a couple right here that you won't be able to see, but I'll just hit it just a little bit. And we got about another 5 minutes. It's been a total of about 15 minutes since we applied the Scum and Mineral Deposit Remover initially. We've kept it moist throughout that 15 minutes, adding little spritzes here and there just to make sure it doesn't dry in those areas. And now the next step is you need to get a mild abrasive pad. ScotchBrite makes pads in different colors. You definitely want to use something more on the mild side. A blue pad would be a good choice. I know that in my woodworking I use the maroon pads as well as the white pads, because they're also pretty non-abrasive, especially the white ones. But the blue one's what I have on hand. What you want to do is make sure it's kind of damp. I just kind of dampened it a little bit with water. And now we're just going to lightly agitate the surface in the areas where we saw the damage. Now that we've finished lightly agitating the surface all around with the blue ScotchBrite pad that we've dampened a little bit, the next step will be to rinse the sink out and then dry it. Now that we've done the Scum and Mineral Deposit Remover, Left it on for 15 minutes, lightly agitated it with the blue ScotchBrite pad at the end of that 15 minutes, rinsed it out. Now we're going to dry it, and we're going to take a look at it and see what it looks like compared to what it looked like before. And we want to repeat this process until basically there's no difference in the appearance of the sink between applications. Okay, sink's been rinsed out now and dried. And now we can kind of look at the sink and kind of compare it to what it looked like before. Not a whole lot of difference, I don't think. Maybe a little bit less here in this area. This area here still looks pretty bad. But we'll go ahead and do another application. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. We've applied the Scum and Mineral Deposit Remover, kept it damp for the last 15 minutes, reapplied it where it started to dry out, kind of like where you see here. And now I'm going to take the damp blue ScotchBrite pad and just very lightly agitating the surface here all around. Okay, sink's been rinsed and dried. Again, we can see that there's not much improvement from the last application. Now I'll move on to the next step. In previous recommendations from Supreme Surface Cleaners has been to utilize a product called the Miracle 511 Seal and Enhance. It's made by a different company, and that's for whenever you wanted to do a full sink restoration following their instructions. They've come out with a new product now called NuVibrants, and which they've been kind enough to give me a sample of. And so we're going to apply that now. There's basically two methods to apply it. You can either spray it on, which I'm going to do since I have a little spray bottle here, or you can brush it on. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this on. The steps for that are make sure the sink's dry. We're going to spray the NuVibrants all around the sink, and then after several minutes, we're going to want to use some sort of like a foam brush or something just to kind of lightly spread it around just to make sure that we've hit all the areas. All right, we sprayed the surface with the NuVibrants, and we've left it on for a couple of minutes. And now, as you can see, we got a lot of runs down in here. So we just want to take our foam brush and just kind of make sure that we've got this NuVibrants on all the surfaces of the sink. So I've spread the NuVibrants product all around after letting it set up for a couple of minutes using a foam brush. The way I did it, I used some vertical strokes to begin with just to kind of bring the stuff that had ran down the sides back up. And then I kind of followed it up with some horizontal strokes just to kind of spread it a little bit. You will notice that the stuff is going to start to thicken a little bit as it dries, and that's normal. So you don't want to overwork the product. Just kind of spread it out. Make sure you get it on all the surfaces. You've got good coverage everywhere, and then just let it start to dry. All right, it's been several minutes now, and the NuVibrants you can see it's kind of starting to thicken up a little bit. So the next step is we just take a regular paper towel, and we're going to lightly kind of rub it and kind of rub it into the sink and make sure it's spread out evenly. And then we're going to allow it to cure or dry for about 20-25 minutes. All right, it's been about 30 minutes since we applied the NuVibrants and let it. We wiped it down and let it cure. So just give you kind of a view of the sink. it's better, but you can still see some areas where the damage is still kind of evident. So, per the instructions, we're going to go ahead and apply another application, the same way we did the last one. This is following the second application of the NuVibrants after letting it dry or cure for about 30 minutes. You can see the sink is looking a whole lot better than it was. However, there's still evidence of some of the kind of the whitish areas. So I'm going to continue to apply applications of the NuVibrants to see if it continues to build on these damaged areas and start to kind of wipe them out. This is following the third application of the NuVibrants, and as you can see, it's as if with each application the sink is looking better and better. So obviously it's going to take at least another application. There's still several areas like that one, this little spot here, there's a little haze right there, and this spot over here that are still very evident. The rest of the sink looks tons better. So I'm going to do another application and we'll check in. Fourth application done and dried. Again, it's looking a little bit better, but there are certain areas that seem stubborn and don't want to clear up as quickly. So I'm just going to keep applying.